Vivek, welcome back to our show.
Good morning.
So the talk of the town is RSV. RSV. Tell us, what is RSV?
So it's another respiratory virus, we've been dealing with them over the last few years. But this one has been there for a much longer period of time. I think the big thing with RSV tends to be it typically affects kids, but it also affects older individuals, especially if you're 60 and above.
Okay.
So if you have a grandparent who babysits your grandchildren and then starts developing a cough which doesn't go away, thinks that she has a pneumonia, more than likely she has RSV.
How about folks, if they're on oxygen or other ailments, something to be aware of, RSV?
Yeah, especially I think anytime you have lung disease, whether you have emphysema, or asthma, or any chronic lung problems, RSV can get you into trouble fairly quickly. The trouble tends to be it doesn't have much of treatment in it all, so you got to cough and bear it.
Yeah. What are you seeing some older folks at the PIIC Center?
Yeah. We see frequently, I think, parents or grandparents who think that they have pneumonia, and you check an RSV, because typically in the outpatient setting, people these days still focus on COVID and now the flu. And they forget RSV can affect adults too.
Yeah.
Is it easy to diagnose?
The test is pretty good, actually. I think if you get an appropriate test, you'll pick up RSV.
Have we seen any flu yet?
Very sporadic.
Yeah.
But we'll see more of it. I think as the smoke keeps on going and we start bundling up, there's going to be the trifecta, RSV, flu, and COVID.
It's nice to know that Dr. Keck despises snow as much as me. It's always nice to have a friend in that regard.
Can someone actually get the trifecta all at once?
In theory, yes, but I don't think so. I personally believe that once you simultaneously, your body can only deal with one thing at a time.
Well, it's obviously highly communicable, as really everything that we've been dealing with, COVID and the various lung and respiratory illnesses. All the same precautions to avoid getting sick?
Pretty much the same. I think if you are sick or if your kids are sick, don't send them to daycare or school, because they're going to infect everyone around them. The trouble tends to be, I think, it's very difficult for parents to keep their kids home, especially if they don't have any help at home.
Yeah.
And then you send them to your grandparents and then they get sick.
I know. And then the grandparents are the ones taking them into the doctor.
Yeah.
We've all seen a lot of our kids and grandkids this week, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yes, we have. So I think for parents, the hardest thing maybe is when do we seek treatment? When do we go in? When would we go to our primary care physician? But are there signs where we should just go right to the ER?
I think if you're seeing that the kid is having trouble breathing, getting very short of breath, that would be the time to go fairly quickly in. If you have a runny nose, some cough, sore throat, and the kid is bouncing around, then I think you are okay to stay at home.
The COVID cases continue to be in the 200s weekly here in Jackson County, and that's through testing by medical authorities. We don't know how many other people home test or people who don't test there are, but obviously it's still here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like flu, that we're going to be dealing with it all the time. So I think the hope that we're going to eradicate it is long gone. I think we just have to get used to the idea that COVID is going to be around us and how to manage it successfully. Hopefully, and I certainly hope so, that we have vaccinations which give you a longer period of protection rather than every 6 months or so. And I know they're working on it, but that's going to be the big thing, vaccine technology that gives you a longer protection rate so that at least you don't have to get a shot every 4 months or so.
How many people are in the hospital with COVID?
I think it's still in the double digits. A lot of them are people who are asymptomatic, in the sense that they came in for something else and then found they were COVID when they were admitted. And then we have a fair amount of individuals, especially older individuals or immunocompromised, who are admitted because of COVID itself, meaning that COVID caused them to get short of breath, fever, they require oxygen. So there's a mixture of both, which I think is going to be the normal from now on. You'll see immunocompromised individuals, people who have extremes of age, who get ill and get admitted because of COVID. And there's going to be another bunch who are perfectly running up and down and find out COVID incidentally.
Has the virus changed at all? Are there new indications of what, the loss of taste and smell and all those things?
Yeah,
The
I think
same?
it fluctuates. I think the first version of this had, the second version didn't have, the third one had it back again. So it keeps on mutating. And I think it's like whack-a-mole in some ways. You try and pinpoint with treatments, especially the antibodies, in one way, and it mutates to a different one. Thankfully, the antivirals, especially Paxlovid, are still effective. So I think that's going to be the treatment of choice if you get sick with it. The trouble with Paxlovid tends to be the taste, but it works. It works pretty well. When I had COVID within a day, I think taking off Paxlovid, it took care of me.
That's that's one thing I've heard, is it's almost like taking an IV, you feel back to normal.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's like a switch. You're miserable, the next morning you're up and about.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a miracle drug.
It is. So you've had it. Do you think it's safe to say that if you were able to be infected, that you've had it by now?
Probably, though intriguingly, we have members of my household who haven't gotten it,
Right.
despite. So, I mean, there is going to be a subset of population, I think, who are intrinsically going to be resistant to COVID, partly because of the immune system.
Yeah.
But most of the population, if they are up and about, will have had COVID or will get COVID.
Yeah.
And you can have COVID more than once. I have members of my family who have had COVID now over 2 times.
Wow.
Wow. And all that early talk of herd immunity, because we can get COVID again, and because obviously it's still spreading.
So, I mean, I think the herd immunity stuff is gone away. The only thing I would say is if you have had COVID and gotten over it, the next time is milder.
Yeah.
So you're not really going to be sick. So in some ways, yes, there's herd immunity from a perspective that you're not going to get really sick. You are immune from severe disease. That's what herd immunity would be like.
And for the last 2 years, all the cautions before the major holidays, we've got Thanksgiving coming up. We still need to be.
I would still kind of be cautious, especially if you're sick, then it's a good idea to kind of stay away. The trouble tends to be there is a subset of population who won't be sick, and they could still spread
Right.
COVID. They'll get symptoms a little bit later, but they could still. So,
Great. Well, we always appreciate your expertise and your time. Thank you for coming in today.
thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
From the PIIC Center, Dr. Vivek. We'll talk about all the downtown things and more coming up. Stay tuned.